Hey guys, welcome back to Buzzer to Buzzer. Today, we're going to start off with one of our old segments called Newsflash. Alright guys, so there have been plenty of NBA developments from the last video we did, which is in the top right-hand corner, about the NBA season and how it can return from the whole COVID-19 pandemic. As of now, there have been many more developments of how it's looking like that the season can resume actually, and we'll see some playoff and finals basketball. The NBA recently released a memo stating that they're looking for June 1st to be the date in which they're going to release some regulations on how to bring back players for teams like the Dallas Mavericks, who have stars like Luka Doncic, who's in Europe right now, and how their NBA is going to allow and work with the federal government to bring back these players and start making that organization, make it a whole again, essentially. And they have targeted the season to return for mid-June or mid-July. So it's starting to look like that we will actually have some basketball, and the NBA is still debating whether or not they should take a ramp and a runway, essentially, and play 2 to 5 games and then resume playoff basketball, or go straight into the playoffs. What do we think? What's the right move to make here?
I think that the NBA should resume by having that ramp, but not in the sort of sense where it can alter the standings. I think the playoffs teams have been set like 16 teams, the top 8 on the East and the top 8 in the West. And I think maybe they should have a game or two between like the first seed and second seed as like exhibition games, or like maybe each team plays every team in their conference like as an exhibition game and like ramp up into the playoffs, so they're not going into it like completely cold.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, they can't go straight into the playoffs. Like, not really sure what the best option is in terms of how many games they need to get back into like this playing for NBA. But I don't think that going straight to the playoffs is a good option. And like, who knows what they're gonna do about prepping for playoffs? But we'll see what happens.
I honestly don't think that the NBA should resume this early, especially now, just because I just think it's going to cause too much chaos. If even one person shows up positive for coronavirus, then it's going to send the whole thing into a frenzy, and I just think it's going to become a loop. And so I just feel as if they should hold off until a little while longer to start the NBA season.
One thing is for certain that, however, the states and the federal government obviously began to repeal some of those official guidelines, and states are starting to reopen. And the NBA Adam Silver especially has one of the biggest decisions of his career, and this is going to be the test to see how well he goes through this, and going to be interesting to see how we come out. Much more to come on this. We'll be providing updates. If you want to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where we'll be posting updates regarding this as well. All right, well, let's move on to our main segment for today, guys. That being that, let's take it back a notch and look at what happened in the past. And as NBA fans and sports fans in general, we think about a lot of scenarios, a lot of what ifs, which could have happened. What if LeBron stayed in Miami? What if KD never left the Warriors? What if KD never left the OKC Thunder? There are so many what if scenarios which we consider, and the impact which they could have had is unexplainable. So today, we're going to examine 2 specific what if scenarios which could have changed the whole dynamic of the NBA. That being, first, we're going to talk about what if our hometown boy, Derrick Rose, never got injured for the Chicago Bulls. Where would they be now? And our second what if scenario will be, what if the OKC Thunder, the big 3, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Russell Westbrook, all stayed together till this date? How would things have looked different? Let's start off with the first what if scenario. That being, if the Chicago Bulls star, the youngest MVP of the league, Derrick Rose, never got injured.
Look, we're looking to sweep you guys. You wanted us. You were crying out that you bypassed the harder team in Miami Heat.
Rose came down bad on his left foot. See him holding on to his knee.
Abi, do you want to start off? What do you think would have been different?
Yeah, so Derrick Rose, he was on a run, insane talent when he entered the league, winning Rookie of the Year in 2008 and winning MVP in 2011, as you said, right on the youngest MVP. He was just on a roll. He was becoming a superstar, learning how to fit into the league game after game. He's just performing really well. And, like, I think that if he did not get injured, I don't think that he would have ever gotten traded to the Timberwolves. I think that Thibodeau would also kept him. And to be honest, I think that I don't know if the Bulls had enough pieces, even though if Derrick Rose didn't get injured. Like, even if he wasn't injured, I still don't think that they would have like gone in like a lot farther. Like maybe like second round in the playoffs, but I don't think they're ever like championship worthy caliber of a team.
Yeah, I have to completely agree here with the B. I just think there were too many other teams that were stacked during this time, and D Rose alone wouldn't have been able to kind of carry the Bulls all the way to a championship. I do, however, think in the long run the Bulls would have been set up to be much more successful, especially after the Miami Heat dynasty ended. I think that's when the Bulls could have had their championship run. But as for the 2012, 2013, 2014 seasons, I don't think the Bulls would have made it to the championship game.
No, I'm gonna have to disagree with you guys. I really see the Bulls developing into a championship caliber team. I'm not saying they would have won. I'm saying they would definitely been one of the top teams in the league, especially since Jimmy Butler would finally be entering in those latter years Orion mentioned, right? 2013, 2014. Jimmy Butler would be entering some of the best years of his career, and he's like still in those years. He's a fantastic player and an all-star caliber player, and he would have entered that paired with prime D Rose, Joakim Noah, and all these other players that they could have kept around. They could have built a successful championship core.
Let me bring in some numbers here, guys. In that 2011 season, Derrick Rose was averaging 25 points, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds, just becoming the 7th player in NBA history to do this in a single NBA season. You know, the Chicago Bulls in that 2011 season saw one of their best records after the Michael Jordan era, in which they won 62 games and only lost 20. They were the number 1 seed in the East, above the Miami Heat. And if that doesn't say anything, you know, just thinking about Derrick Rose right now and that horrific injury, man, brings back some bad memories. But considering how good of a streak he was on and how much momentum he had going on for him, I feel like that despite him having not that many good assets, I mean, there was a developing Jimmy Butler and developing players and a developing team, essentially, with Tom Thibodeau running the whole team. I think that they still would have had enough momentum to make a deep playoff run, and eventually they would have won a championship. Which brings me to the question, do you guys think that if Derrick Rose never got injured in the past 10 years, would the Chicago Bulls have won at least one championship? Abi?
Okay, so I think from 2015 to like 2 years, 2019, I think that the Golden State Warriors like ruled this league. And even with Derrick Rose, if he stayed on the Bulls, prime Derrick Rose, I really don't think there's any team that could have stopped him. So I'm gonna like disregard those 4 years. And so when he got injured in 2012 to 2015, I think that the East was actually really competitive, especially with the Heat and their prime years, and the Spurs in the West, and also the other teams like the Mavericks. It was a really competitive time in the league. So I'm not sure if they would have won a championship, but I think that they either would have gone into the Eastern Conference Finals or the championship, but they couldn't have. They maybe could have lost in the championship. So I don't think so.
Yeah, I think Abby's exactly right. Like, I think even if Derrick Rose was healthy, he was going to be pinched just because he would have had to play a dynasty in the Heat, and he would have had to play the Golden State Warriors, and not to mention he would have had to play LeBron and the Cavs in that 2015 to 2018 range. And so I just don't think they make the championship just because he didn't have enough players around him to be successful.
I think it's important to look at what Derrick Rose was doing prior to that injury. Derrick Rose, they met the Heat in that Eastern Conference Finals that year, and they did lose to them. I think a developing Derrick Rose, he's destined to get better over time. As a player works hard, they're going to get better and improve, as seen by Jimmy Butler. And, you know, Jimmy Butler in the years 2013 to 2014, he improved severely. And that's before the Golden State Warriors 2015 era of, you know, being the dominant force in the league, right? So I think, one, they would have definitely been able to take down the Miami Heat at some point, especially since Derrick Rose and all those players around him, they were still developing. They were still kind of young, you know, they were a developing core. And I think Miami was sort of at the end of his run as shown. Well, it wasn't at the end of his run, but they were showing signs of weakness, especially to Boston or even in the finals to San Antonio. And I think the Bulls could have also cracked in that team that causes weakness and problems for the Miami Heat.
You know, you guys know I'm a huge LeBron fan, but in this scenario, I think that actually Derrick Rose could have, and the Chicago Bulls could have taken down the Heat. And now, this is not during the time when the Heat are prime time, D-Wade, The Flash, LeBron, them throwing alley-oops to one another like it's nothing. Not that time. But I'm talking about the last year of LeBron in Miami, when D-Wade was respectively getting older and he aged, and he wasn't putting on as much of a show, and LeBron was having to do a lot more carrying for the team. I think that would have been a perfect time for Derrick Rose to come in, steal the show essentially, and make it to the finals. Now, in the finals against the Spurs, a very experienced veteran team, who knows what would have happened? I mean, Chicago Bulls haven't been to a finals, let alone an Eastern Conference Finals, in the last 20 years. What is it now? After the MJ era, sadly. I think that they could have won at least one chip, though. And I think that experience, they would have met it with some real talent. And I think that Derrick Rose could have really carried that team well. Truly a tragedy to see that nearby what happened against that Philly series and him going down with that ACL.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, I think that players like Russell Westbrook and there's like quick players, like explosive players in the league, like De'Aaron Fox. I think the original player who had that style was Derrick Rose. And like you see Russell Westbrook in the league right now, like he's thriving, like won an MVP. That season where he won MVP, he averaged triple-double, like crazy numbers. And I think Derrick Rose maybe would have been even better than Russell Westbrook, like if he didn't get injured.
All right. A lot of history could have been changed. For sure, LeBron's dynasty could have been changed, and a lot of other Eastern teams, and not to mention Western teams as well. Anyway, let's move on to our second what if for today, guys. That being, what if the big three of the Oklahoma City Thunder, that's right, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden, all three of them stuck together throughout till this year, how would things would have looked? And not one, but how many championships would they have won, guys? Harsh, you want to start off?
They wouldn't have won a single championship. If they all three of them stuck together, they would not have won a single championship together. Russell Westbrook, great numbers, fantastic player, but he needs the ball to do that. James Harden, he needs the ball to put up the numbers he's putting up too. And Kevin Durant also needs that. Not to mention they got Steven Adams out of that James Harden trade. Now, if we're talking about Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook sticking together, I think that's a different story. But I think the James Harden trade was definitely crucial to their future success, especially the Western Conference Finals against the Warriors. I think if they had James Harden then, they wouldn't even made the Western Conference Finals that year.
Yeah, for sure. You look at teams who are successful in the league right now, and it's not teams who have it's teams who have star players that can work together and they can make each other better. And I really don't think this would be the case if James Harden, if the big three were still in OKC, is what Hart said, that James Harden, he's just always needs a ball. He's an offensive threat.
Yeah, I think you look at the Rockets today, you see James Harden and Russell Westbrook working together. And honestly, even though they have some wins, they really aren't a championship contending team. And adding KD to that only just makes it worse. I think this also would have stunned James Harden's growth as a player. I don't think he'd be the player today if he wasn't traded. And so I just think they would also probably not win any championships just because there's not enough ball to go around.
This is something which The Last Dance sort of spotlighted and spurred a conversation, essentially, that they look at Michael Jordan. He had people like Scottie Pippen, Steve Kerr, great role players and amazing players, Hall of Famer Scottie Pippen as well. And we think about it in today's era. Could these role players, would they have been fine with such a ball-dominant player? And, yeah, Harsh and Abhi, you guys pointed it out perfectly, man. And I don't think that is possible in today's era to have that much talent on one team, because in today's era is much different than the past era during Jordan's era, man, because more players want the ball. They want their own stats, want to make a name for themselves. It's the whole landscape has changed. It's about the media endorsements. It's about making the cash, making a name for yourself, and then the team comes second. And it's unfortunate, and we can't see all the talent amassing in one area. But I think that it would have been too much. And I think, if anything, there would have been tensions rising in that team because KD was growing, Westbrook was growing, and James Harden. Remind you that none of these players were in their prime at that moment when they were together. So once they reached their primes, not only, like Harsh, you said, would their primes have peaked at the high level that they are right now, but they all would have started to have some tensions, and we would have seen some big drama unfold in OKC for sure.
No, but even to add on, you have to understand that Kevin Durant left the Thunder when he did because he wanted to go make a name for himself. He wanted that championship ring to add to his resume. I think if Harden stays in OKC, Kevin Durant leaves earlier than he did. To whether it is the Warriors or any other team, I think Kevin Durant wouldn't be a Thunder player for that long.
Okay, let's consider a very hypothetical scenario, a perfect situation. Say we disregard the fact that there's tensions, that this the new era. Say it's like the Jordan era. These guys are fine with playing with one another. Do we think that these three together could have won multiple championships?
So I honestly don't think that, like disregarding what you said about tensions and like their drive to win, I don't think that the OKC Thunder with the big three would really get anywhere. Because you have to look at their playing styles as individuals, and with all of them being like offensive players who rely on getting the ball frequently, I don't think that they would work together well, and I don't think they'd have that dynamic and like connection that like you see like the big three on the Heat do.
Yeah, also, I don't think era changes your playing style. I think no matter if the KD and all the OKC players played today or now, their playing style is to play with the ball. And I don't think, regardless of era, I just think they wouldn't mesh well.
Yeah, everything you said, Ryan, like attitude aside, all of it, I think their games just don't complement each other. I think all of them are ball dominant players, and even on the defensive side of the ball, if they can make up for it, I just think too many people on that team need the ball to thrive, and I think they can't do that on the all three of them together.
All right, guys, for sure, these what-if scenarios always make us think as sports fan, what could have been? And especially when they're concerning our hometown sports teams like the Chicago Bulls and what a dynasty they could have been, it for sure gets in the feels. Anyway, guys, we hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that you subscribe to our videos, and in the comment section down below, let us know your what-if scenarios. Let us know, and maybe we'll pick them out for a future video and discuss them as well. And comment down below what you would have think to our what-if scenarios in our video as well. We hope that you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.